Okay. Oh, that was weird. Okay. I got a note that said that in order to record the meeting, it had to kick Matt out, but you're still here. So, okay.
It says that when you're recording it says that I'm losing my network connection.
Oh.
I don't know why. So.
Okay. Well, I can still see you. We can still hear you. So I think we're okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So to start with, if we could just kind of go through, in terms of content, obviously your local news is top priority, but what other things are high priority for you? What are you looking at? What's important? And Ben is going to be taking notes. So if he's typing, it's because he's paying extra attention, not because he's not paying attention.
Okay, Alicia, I misunderstood. I thought you guys were just going to kind of lay out how it was all going to work. But from a news standpoint, I think we're decidedly local. So we try to focus on local news most on our front page. And if there's maybe a particularly strong regional story, we might look at that. But basically we prioritize local, then regional, then other stuff. So we don't run a lot of national news. I think Ben knows that already. On our front page, I should say. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yep. And then for inside content, just sort of the same hierarchy is the local, then regional, and then national for kind of whatever's left. Your national pages, you only run the national stuff on print days, and then it's sort of a placeholder for if obituaries run over, correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And Katie, feel free to add anything that I'm not adding here because Katie deals with a lot of news production. So, but yeah, we use our Nation World pages as an outlet for obit overflows. And we also sometimes use them for, like, if we have a lot of local and regional news, we prioritize that over using like advanced national news. So, yeah, that's basically the philosophy.
Okay. And then in terms of the regional news that we get through FNS, I know that you're in a different position than a lot of our papers because you're on the border, so there's multiple states that your readers are really interested in. Is there stuff in the region that they're not interested in? Like when we get to Dickinson, they don't care about anything. They care if it's good crime stuff. I know we don't have the interesting oil stuff so much coming out of there that we used to.
I do think the form, rightly or wrongly, Minnesota news.
You froze up, Matt.
The same distance. Oh, what?
I think the form rightly or wrongly, and then you froze.
Oh, we tend to run probably more North Dakota news or Western North Dakota news than we do Eastern Minnesota news. Because I think we're the largest paper in North Dakota, so people kind of look to us for North Dakota news. So we probably lean a little bit more toward the west than we do to the east when it comes to our news, getting news in. But you're right. We try to definitely, news from Lake Country in Minnesota, and news of statewide interest in Minnesota, we certainly try to get those stories in.
Okay. And then with the South Dakota stuff, is there anything in particular out of South Dakota that you do try to get in? Legalized pot, Kristi Noem doing whatever weird thing she's doing this week.
Yeah, just the broad strokes. The broad strokes of South Dakota news. Like if there's big bigger news or thematic news out of South Dakota, we'll try to get those in. Katie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess of note, I don't know how things were settled because we haven't heard from you how we're doing this, but if you're like setting our front page independent of our input, because I'm not sure where that landed, we do try to balance like having, it's generally a 1-to-3 ratio of 3 North Dakota stories, 1 Minnesota story. We try to at least represent Minnesota a little bit out there. So we try to find a little bit of balance there, try to make sure we get Moorhead or some part of Northwest Minnesota out front if we can. Of course, yeah, we're much more Fargo and much more North Dakota heavy, as Matt said.
So this in general, we have more in general. We actually have more news in North Dakota. Like if we look typically at what's available in our entirety, I think we have more. The Bismarck-based reporters do a lot of reporting, and it tends to get shared with everybody. And most of our reporters locally probably focus on North Dakota side too, so we get kind of a double dose of that. But as Katie said, we do try to pick up big stories on Minnesota, give them good play, and especially if it's like in Western Minnesota, specifically English scene, we try to get those in or give them good play.
Okay. Andy, you raise your hand.
This question or concern may be premature. I don't know how it all is supposed to work yet, but so business stories will run on the FNS lineup. I don't use them that often, but generally Katie and I are in contact about what news has used and what might be available. How will that work? Because we'll have one dedicated person, or
yeah, so
or how would you that from having
I can kind of go over what this looks like to see what questions we can answer right off the bat here. So essentially, instead of creating a budget like you do now, what we'll have you do is just a content list, and it'll have categories on it. So it'll have an A1 category. So whatever you want on your A1, you put there. So you're still choosing what you want on your A1. It'll have a business category for your local business stuff. And then from there, we get all of your local content into the paper, and then we'll fill in the blanks with FNS content. So you don't have to be going through all of that and choosing that stuff. And the FNS digest as it currently stands is not going to continue, because we'll switch that over to something that's going to be a little bit more subject based, so that it better fits the needs of the pod. And what we're going to do on that is we'll just track, so like if there's a business story, and then we'll put, ran in the form on 9/17. So it'll be noted right on there, so that, so if Ben puts that story in the form on a Thursday, that somebody working on Sunday doesn't come in and then be looking back and be like, oh, that story is pretty good. I bet the form people would dig that, and then place it in again. That's the best way we could figure out to do that, to avoid that duplication. I know that was a problem we had earlier in the hub that created really, it was a lot. And so we want to make sure that we avoid that. So that's what we're going to do, is just when we take FNS stories to place in a site, whoever pulls them is going to note right on that digest, like, we put this in the form already, so that it won't be duplicated. It shouldn't be run in 2 different sections, things like that.
And just to emphasize, what you're going to see is, as opposed to a full budget with any sort of page numbers or anything like that, you're just going to see your categories. So you'll have the A1 category, you'll have an inside category of must-run content, you'll have an inside category of optional or items that can hold, and then the individual sections that are more specialty, sports, business, opinion, etc. So that's what you'll see on your end. And then we take care of all the rest on our end.
Yep. And our expectation when it comes to that is that you'll just be linking the Q link. You won't have to take care of getting that output and, taking out all the embeds and all of that kind of stuff. We'll take care of all of that. So your focus is just on, creating the content and then just making sure you get it on the list in the appropriate place.
Okay, I have one or two more questions.
Okay, go.
So both I'll start with business, but Ryan's not here, so I'm trying to think of questions for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
We do use some wire, like an auto review, or I usually pull something to run in place of the markets. Is that something I'll still pull and throw on there, or does that? Okay, I'm seeing Rob go like this. Okay.
You can, or like the auto review, I think comes in the TNS wire that we can all access. So, if we know that the Saturday section includes the auto review on this page, that's something we can take care of. That on print days where we put that story in place of the markets, we can be taking care of that. If there's something specific you want there, you're certainly welcome to take care of that. But, we're trying to make it as little work for you as possible.
We'll make sure that your section is filled, but the absolute best way to make sure you're getting what you want is to put it on there and tell us to put it in there.
Okay, that's fair. And then my last question is, I don't think I've heard definitively, is opinion included in this or not?
Matt's telling me yes. Okay. The sites all had the opportunity to keep opinion if they wanted to, since that's, tied in with kind of a different group of people, but we'll definitely take opinion. So if you just want to link up, local editorials, letters, any local columnists, then we will take it from there. If there's specific syndicated columnists that you use on specific days, one of the things Ben is going to set up is a budget template. So that like A2 has a template that always says, like the poll. And so we always remember to fill in the poll. And, the obit page always says obituaries. The second features page always says Dear Annie. So remember that's where Dear Annie has to go. Stuff like that. So if there's specific syndicated columnists that run on specific days, we'll include that in that budget template. Otherwise, we'll just work on grabbing a spectrum of opinions.
Okay.
To fill in those spaces.
Okay.
So Alicia and the rest of the gang, I just want to emphasize, a big part of this change is also letting go. So I think it's important, when we talk about specific content for pages or for week or whatever, those things saying with if you want something to run, make sure it's noted, all those kind of things. But part of this goal is to try to let go as much as possible to the print and e-paper production so that we can focus on the digital and on the content only. So I just bring that up so everybody kind of, it's going to be hard for all of us to let go, is to not micromanage every little piece of the puzzle, is to just focus on the content that's being created and make sure that it's represented on these lists that the pod will be working from. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I know Katie's got a million questions too, but one of the questions I had was, okay, so if we're just
You froze again, Matt.
copy, is every story?
Yeah.
Am I
You're
frozen?
like, one of the questions I have, and then I didn't hear anything else after that. So.
Okay, sorry. I don't know where the connectivity issue is, but anyway, we're having some issues. Anyway, is every story that we put a Q link for going to be then opened and cleaned up? Because of course there'll be embeds in there and possibly photos that will be dropped into the text and things like that. Those are things we're supposed to be doing on the digital side, but they actually create extra steps on the production side. So everything will be opened and and kind of looked over?
Yep. Yeah, we'll go through all of it, pull that stuff out, make sure that, whatever formatting came across the way that it's supposed to. If you have anything that you do that goes directly to Google, go ahead and do that. Like different, sports agate and things like that aren't necessarily put together in Q. Go ahead and do that. And then once we go to Brightspot, of course, this will all change. And then we'll have a different meeting about whatever the new thing will look like. But yeah, we want you all to be able to focus on the digital stuff. So we'll take care of getting it out and getting it all cleaned up. That's not anything that you need to worry about.
What about links? The $1 million question. So like we obviously have to be cognizant of those as it relates to print and e-paper. But if we're just working in a digital world, those parameters sort of go out the window, right? So how does that work? Like if you're trying to take, say, a 1,400 word Pat Springer story into a 800 word space, how does that work?
Then we would take care of trimming that. All the pod editors are people with, experience that know how to do this. Our primary pod editors. So between them, we have almost 100 years of experience. So we're all people that know how to do that can trim effectively, rewrite your headlines properly and things like that. So there shouldn't be any issues with that. We'll take care of that if that's what we need to do. If you're working on any kind of like special projects or packages, like we've had stories in the past that people have worked on that end up being, it's really more of a long form, 4,000, 5,000 words, stuff like that. If you're working on something like that, if you could give us a heads up ahead of time, so then we can look at that and make sure that we either, allocate the correct amount of space to that, or, look at, for print and e-paper, is it better to split this into, 2 parts, or, figure that out on our end. But yep, we'll figure that out. So you all just do what's best for the content in terms of the digital side, and we'll go from there.
And do we list story lengths on these? I haven't seen what this new budget looks like, but it sounds like it's a more pared down. Is it a more pared down budget? I mean,
yeah, it's essentially, so it says A1, and then under A1, you'll put the slug, and then an approximate length, what time we can expect it if it's not already in, and then whether or not it's got art with it. That's all we need to know. It's just, and then, length, of course, can always change. But just to get an idea of what we're working with so that we can be.
And so you guys will give us sort of a temp so that we kind of come to like budget lines and stuff.
Yes. So what will happen is that overnight, next weekend, sorry, I just got a message from Matt that the meeting kicked him out. Overnight, what is your budget now will change into your content list. And so then we'll have all the headers there for you for each day. And then we'll have an example slug of just, what we need.
So that will be the print budget changing.
Yep.
Because we have a shared lineup as well, WDOY.
Yeah, that we won't touch at all. That you still do it whatever you need to with WDOI on that.
And if reporters are hitting their story lengths, and or if we're giving you guys enough heads up on change in length, do you foresee a need to cut stories by significantly?
No. Our goal would be not to be cutting stories unless the story is written in such a way that, it's referencing, this document below, kind of, web specific things or anything like that. But otherwise, no, we wouldn't be trimming things regularly. Really, the situation we run into where we end up trimming most is just, when we have one of those days where, obits just take over the entire paper and there's still important news to get in. And so we have to trim the news a little bit to get all the death in.
Will we have an idea of what kind of space we're working with as we pick stories? I mean, we can just look at the dummies ourselves, right?
Yep. Yeah. The location of the dummies isn't going to change. So you certainly can look at that. And then, the way that space is set up isn't going to change. So the e-paper will still have the same number of pages that it does now, set up the same way it is now. The print paper will be set up the same as it is now. If you have a bigger project coming up that we need to ask for space with, you can communicate that with us, and we'll talk to, Jess Hastings, do those things that we do now.
Okay. And right now, I know news editors do a lot with photos to Google. I know that's where I will prioritize them and put numbers on them. If that's not messing with the Google file anymore, I haven't done it this way, but I'm guessing you can change the slug of the photo in Q. So that's how we prioritize the photos for you guys.
You definitely can, if there's a specific photo that it's very important to you is lead, but otherwise we'll take care of that on our end of telling the designers, like, this is the photo that's going to work best for print based on, we'll read the stories too. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. That isn't something that you need to be taken care of anymore.
Also, going back to, I know I harp on this, but this is a pain point for us. When it comes to lengths, we have reporters, like, we might put a story on our content list that says it's 800 words and it comes in at 1,400 words. Do we update the content list when the story is filed? So in other words, another issue of deadlines, but the issue, I think, is at what point do you guys begin planning the paper or e-paper?
Yeah.
We're constantly, it's sort of deadlines in our world in a way, and this is by design, a way they kind of go away. I mean, there's just kind of the deadline is when the story is ready, right? So it's possible that it will miss the train for print or e-paper. So when we list a length on, or do we just update it when the Q link is attached or something?
Yeah, you can certainly update it then. When you're starting to write the story, you have an idea of, this is only worth about 500 words, throw that on there so we have an idea. But we understand that that's not going to be exact, and especially when people are writing for digital and don't have to keep in mind the length things. So, we know that we need to plan around that, and sometimes things will switch up later in the day.
If I can note a little thing on length, I've noticed a trend, not necessarily in this newsroom, but around the company, where people will start listing, oh, it's going to be 800 to 1,200 words. That's not particularly useful. So if we just have the one length, and if it gets blown out of the water, it gets blown out of the water, we'll make adjustments. But it's a little hard to plan when it's that nebulous from the start.
Trust me, this has been preached in the newsroom. Trust me, it's an ongoing conversation where, 400 to 1,200 words is one I've seen before, where it's like, that's not plannable. So in terms of this, I think we're kind of edging around the deadline conversation of, like, what does that look like? Like, I mean, my dream world for this is the content that is ready is the content we put on that lineup, and we don't try to plan for things that we don't know for sure they're coming, aside from things that are, like, happening right now. But at what point do we need to have everything fully updated, fully linked, and then just pass it on?
So the deadlines, there's sort of be a simplified version of what you have now. And my ideal world is the same as yours, Katie. It's just like, this is what time we need content by to get it in the papers. And if we don't have it by then it's not getting in. And, we could try it for tomorrow. And that's just sort of, when something's ready, you link it and we take it. but I know that's not always going to work. Sports, of course, is a different animal because it's not often that, there's a breaking Vikings game that wasn't, it's not the same as news where it's like, oh God, the Twins are playing a surprise game. But your deadlines will essentially be, so right now, let me look at your e-paper deadlines. Okay. So noon, 2 days before, to have life, business, opinion, all of that ready to go. That stays the same. We ask that the budget be finalized by 5 p.m. And so for now, we'll stick with that. We might want to have a discussion of if we want to adjust that a little bit, just to help make sure that designers are ready to go. And depending on how you adjust your staffing, now that you don't have to worry so much about the production aspect of things. And then we'll give you 2 deadlines. One will be for your inside content and one will be for your A1 content. Instead of right now, you have like all but 3 stories and then the 3rd story and the 2nd one and the 1st one. So we'll simplify that. So it'll be, this is what time anything that you want inside the paper needs to be linked. And this is what time anything for A1 needs to be linked. And then for sports, it'll be a similar thing where we'd like the majority of the sports ready to go. Right now, I believe we have 9 for the e-edition. That seems unnecessarily early. So, maybe we go with 10 for most of the sports and then the cover stuff is later. Tom, we can have a discussion on that based on what time the games usually are getting done.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we've got page flow going there. But, right now it says 9 o'clock for all sports stories except for 2. And I don't think we're going to ask for it that early. That seems a little extra to me when that's not due till midnight. But does that kind of help?
Yeah, Ben's pretty used to. I think he's got a pretty good handle on how copy comes in and when it comes in, and there's just a couple nights during the week where there'll really be an issue, especially like during football season, stuff like that. Weekend stuff with Bison and football and everything, that stuff's real early. So, I mean, it's not going to be an issue that much. So,
yep.
Like I said, it'll just be a couple of the busy prep nights during the week. See, I got one question for you. Now, when we do put this stuff on the budget, what we're doing now is we're rewriting headlines and, according to this, whichever skeleton you pick. And are we still going to be doing that, or do we just list the position we want the story in, and Pod takes over on writing headlines and et cetera?
Yeah, you don't even have to list what position you want them in. See, these are the 4 stories for my sports cover. This stuff goes inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll take it from there. So we'll pick the skeleton, tell designers which piece goes where, rewrite the headlines as needed, all those kinds of things. We'll entirely take care of that. You just have to tell us which stories go there.
Okay. Yeah. I was just saying, again, I'm not too worried about it because but just so we had something that would be our centerpiece, we wouldn't want that to end up being position 3 and having a big Twins centerpiece. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So,
and you certainly can on your content list, whatever you want as your centerpiece. You can
just know what
on that.
Yeah.
And
okay. Yeah.
Yep. That's not a problem at all. But yeah, you don't have to pick skeletons and rewrite the headlines, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Alicia, do we even put anything in the print field at all? Like beginning?
When you're writing things, or when your reporters are working on things, if you're editing things, if you've got the web headline and you think of, for print, it would be much better if it was this, that'd be helpful. I'm not going to say, no, don't come up with a better, shorter headline that'll work for print. We have no objection to that. It's not required.
Yeah, we'll take all the information you want to give us for sure. And one thing that we do need in there though is the slug, because otherwise I don't want to screw anything up and put the wrong story with the wrong budget line or anything. So if the slug can be in there, that would be great. Otherwise, anything you want to get in there is all gravy.
And I think having a slug for every story or any piece of content is still valuable, just as far as tracking it, because it's how we talk about the story. Like that story is the murder story. Everybody knows what that is, versus, so I think slugs are still important. So in the category list, we'll still list a slug as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Say real quick on stuff that, like, for now, like, say for instance we get Twins, Vikings, etc. When we get the FNS budget, that stuff's already linked, and we basically look at the story real quick. If we maybe want to write a new headline, we make a copy and do that, or add some pictures or something. But if not, we're not making any changes, we usually just take that stuff and cut and paste it. Now, do we have to go hunt down or do we have to figure out a Q link, or can we just put that stuff that's already linked on?
You don't even have to link that for us, Tom. We know that you want Twins, that you want Vikings, so we're going to take all of that stuff.
Yep. So we just put in a plug with
put that for
Twins
you.
notebook.
You just have to get us
like
your
that.
local stuff. If it's Sunday and you want Vikings on your cover, then you can note that, and we'll throw it on your cover there. But you don't have to do anything in terms of finding that story, linking that story.
Okay. That sounds good.
On that note, is there any sports content that we move that you don't want going in?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was
Yeah, is there any sports content that you want us to avoid? Like, I don't know, maybe everybody in Fargo hates NASCAR, so let's not put NASCAR stuff in. Things like that.
No. Actually, no. That's whatever works. I guess it's just a matter of consistency, because sometimes we'll have space and we can, or we have extra page or something. We do run a NASCAR story, for instance, and then it kind of confuses readers, because then we get packed in with other stuff, or we fill it up with other things, and we don't have a NASCAR story for 3 weeks. And then when it's convenient and we need it, then we'll throw a NASCAR story in. I think that's the part that gets confusing for readers sometimes, there's nothing we can really do about it with the limited space we have now. Back when we had 6-8 pages, whatever, we could get everything in, but I think if we could get it so it's at least they can always count on seeing this or this or this, maybe 2 or 3 things, Vikings, Twins, obviously the local stuff. But other than that, I can't really think of anything we wouldn't want to put in that we get from FNS. So,
and we won't see an FNS lineup at all, will we? Will we ever see what's being produced, like, broadly?
There will still be a document that exists for the FNS reporters. You should still be able to find that. And we're still in the planning process on, where budget lines like St. Paul sports are going to live, and that sort of thing. So they'll still exist. You'll still be able to find them. It's a work in progress as we're adjusting to the pod, though, still.
So yeah, that would help, because we do see stuff like, for instance, we have a story coming out of Brandon, Evansville, about a girl who's playing football. And, so it's nice to be able to see the full range of things. You find stuff places sometimes that you wouldn't normally think you would,
Yeah, and there might be stories like being produced by an FNS reporter that we'd want on our cover, for instance.
Right.
So you're saying we'll still be able to kind of see what's being produced by those reporters that don't belong to any property.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, it's going to be different under Bright Spot, of course. So we're just kind of duct taping things together until we get there. But yes, we'll make sure that you'll be able to access that content and see a budget.
And will that also apply to, like, say, I mean, this doesn't happen very often, but let's just say Grand Forks has a really hot story that we would normally discover, like, on the FNS lineup or something. Will stuff that's being sort of pulled together or available to every property from your team, is that going to be visible to us? Like, if we want to go in and see, like, okay, what's everybody doing today around the network, or what's being produced, would we be able to see that?
As of right now, like the way we have it set up, you wouldn't, but we can certainly, have a discussion about that and figure out a better way. The other thing is that stuff's going to end up on your website. And so, when you see something is doing well on your website.
I got a question or two about, we share a lot of stuff with back and forth with Wayne and Grand Forks, the sports stuff. And he'll send us an email and say, hey, can I get Jeff Kolpak's column on this, or, whatever the case may be. How do we handle that stuff to transfer stories back and forth like that? If he wants something, or if we sometimes go into his budget and steal a UND story or something like that. And I'm just wondering how we go about that, or if we just, if we notify the pod and they take care of it from there, or.
Yeah. So, if the Spuds are up there playing East Grand Forks and you want that game and somebody from Grand Forks is taking care of covering it, you can just note on your budget, EGF versus Spuds, so Grand Forks is writing. Yeah. And then we'll make sure that we take their budget and put it on yours.
Yeah. So whoever's handling theirs and whoever's handling ours will take it from there then.
Yep. Yeah. And that's part of the reason for, we've separated, as we're doing the pod, into pub groups by region. Yeah. And so Grand Forks is in the same pub group as you. So it'll be the same person working on both of your properties every day.
Yeah.
So whoever's on that shift is going to be doing both your properties. So they'll know, like, oh, this is the Spuds. I should put that in Fargo too.
Okay. Yeah. That'll somewhat come up during state tournaments too, since we've been kind of building this sharing thing with Jamestown, Bismarck, Dickinson to some degree, where we've got a lot of, especially photos and content going back and forth. We're shooting something for them and they're getting something for us. Again, Ben's used to that. He knows how that has been working. So I'm just wondering that from that standpoint, if we just let him know, or if we kind of gather the things up ahead of time and let him know when it's ready, that kind of thing. It's just it's kind of a traffic nightmare at some points, but
yeah, what we can take care of getting that story from the other property that's working on it, because they're going to be sending it to us. We just need to know, like we already discussed with Wayne, that we're going to take their coverage of this.
Yeah,
drop that note on the book, or your list rather.
The nice thing about this setup is you only have to communicate with one pod editor now, instead of having to go around to multiple publications. So hopefully that should make it easier on you.
Well, I'm actually thinking more about messing you guys up as opposed to, because it is a kind of a disaster. I mean, it works fine, but you got photos coming in from 3 different locations and whatnot. It seems like that's a lot of work for you to, we have sometimes we have 2 or 3 people doing it, and now all of a sudden that would fall on you alone. It gets to be a lot. So we're just trying to figure out how best we can kind of get things aggregated before you have to deal with it,
Well, there's 4 of us in the pod that have extensive sports desk experience working nights. So if we need more help, we can always, tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, jump in on this. So don't worry too much about us.
Okay.
I think one thing that's going to be really nice actually is the fact that, in a sense, content is only produced once, and then it can be shared, multiple times, instead of like right now we're copying and pasting from different budgets and we're sort of piecing it together, and this will create a lot of, where there's not as much duplication of work, because the content's if it's being produced in Grand Forks, it's being shared, and then it's shared, around with whoever's using it, versus like us waiting for it, having to paste it onto our lineups, having somebody deal with it on that end, maybe touching it 2, 3, 4 times. So there will be some efficiency there, which will help.
Yep. And there'll be efficiencies on the design side too, that, especially for like inside sports stories, like if it's, Spuds versus East Grand Forks, whoever does that for Grand Forks, you guys have the exact same page size as Grand Forks. So it can be laid out once and we can just put it on both pages, things like that. So It's gonna save time across the board. Some of the ways, it's gonna save time, we have to figure it out. Figure out the exact details of things. There's gonna be some hiccups. We had the first week last week. There was definitely some hiccups. Certainly, we're not going to promise you that everything is going to run perfectly smoothly with no issues at all. There's going to be stuff we need to figure out. The big thing that we need from all of you is communication. So if you don't like something, let us know. If something looks great, let us know. Tom, if there's a story that really you feel like should have gone in your section that didn't go in there, let us know. On the news side, if we put a story in and you guys are like, I don't know that I would have picked that one for our readers. It's not something they're really that interested in. Let us know that. All of those things, you're not going to hurt our feelings. We need to know to make sure that we're giving you the best possible quality.
Yeah. The other thing I've got is, like, for instance, our tomorrow we'll be putting together Wednesday print, and of course that's done relatively early.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times leftover stories we just don't have enough. Unless we plan ahead a little bit, though, people get stuff, new stuff for print. But our print lineup will not be anywhere near the same as our e-pages later in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I can, we can get everything set up, but there's a big changeover. Unless we get something good that's our main story, our centerpiece or something, you can carry that over or just lay it out again on Tuesday night or whatever. But there's sometimes where basically what goes into print Wednesdays is not the same as, pretty much
right.
Everything comes out and starts over on Tuesday. So that might be.
Yep. Yeah. So what we'll probably do is on your content list when we're talking about those print days, have a sports print section and a sports e-paper section, so that
that's
put in for print and then we're kind of completely restart the section for the
again. I'm gonna stress to all of our local editors, because this is going to be our tendency, is to want to micromanage this stuff, because that's what we've been doing for years and years and years. Is to, and this goes for you too, Tom, is to try to let go of some of that a little bit too, and focus on the content, and try to get away from, budgeting everything and making sure that it's just the way you would do it, because it's not going to be. And that's going to be hard for all of us, but I can't stress that enough, because that is part of this exercise. If we're spending all of our time trying to organize the print and e-paper and, factor in every little thing that we think is going to happen or could happen, it's going to consume us. And that's not the goal here. The goal is to actually simplify and keep the newsrooms focused on creating content, and keep the production team focused on making good newspapers and e-papers. So it's going to take all of us, including me, a lot of letting go. And I think some of us have gotten better at it over time, but this is going to be the big challenge in the first month or two, is just letting go more.
All right. Other Thomas, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Perhaps I misunderstood this earlier, but do you want us then to be using the filling out the print options on cue or not? I don't know that I fully understood that.
You can fill out the print options. We're not going to be in any way upset with you for suggesting a better print headline, using the notes field to say, this is a great quote, that'd be a good pull quote, any of that kind of things. It's not required, but certainly if you want to, as you're working on stuff, it's okay.
And then with the footnotes as well, where it says readers can reach so-and-so at whatever your phone number is, do you want us to fill that out, or?
Yes, please be filling that out, because we don't have everybody's correct contact information. We'll definitely end up putting the wrong numbers and stuff in for somebody. So.
Okay.
And Thomas, what is absolutely required is a slug.
Okay.
In the print field, just like we do now, we have to have that slug so that it has a name and it goes somewhere once they publish it.
Okay. And then I'm guessing not, but I'm kind of curious, do you think there's anything that reporters can be doing to kind of help ease this transition, or is there anything that they can do to make things easier on the editor or page designer side of things?
Other than, the earlier we get stories, the easier that makes our lives. But no, reporters on this, there's not really anything specific from them that is going to make a difference.
Okay.
The closer you write to your projected story length would also help, but don't screw up a story just to try to accommodate us. Go get it, and then we'll adjust.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with this, we really want reporters focused on, just creating really great content, and then we'll take it from there. Because when we have great content to start with, we're going to put together great papers.
Right.
When you have amazing content, it's not that I've never seen anybody do it, but it's kind of hard to screw up the paper if you have great material to work with.
Okay. That was all I had wanted to ask, so
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Archie has his hand raised next.
Yeah, in trying to give up some of these details, I'm thinking of all the details. So graphics and illustrations. A lot of times we have those that are specifically for print or e-paper. Should we just email those to the pod editor? What should we do?
Yeah, if you could let the pod editor know that this story has a bunch of numbers coming with it.
Okay. Sometimes
Here's the data.
Sometimes we'll just link it to the budget line.
Yep.
That works too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we do also have, it's already set up. If you wanted to join it, there's a Slack channel that's just called Pod. And that's where all of our pod editors are.
Okay.
So you can join that channel and,
We
let us know
probably
if
should all
things that are
join that,
coming up.
right?
It wouldn't hurt. Yep.
Okay. My other question is about briefs. Right now, the designers want us to have a briefs folder in a Google Doc and have bullet points with all the headlines. Should we be breaking briefs out if we need to get those in a timely way?
How do you set that up right now for online? They're all separate documents. Okay, then you can just leave them as separate documents. And if you want to, on your content list, just say briefs and then list, if you've got 6 of them, list them with their Q links. And then we'll take them from there and we'll turn it into a briefs package that the designers can run that way. You don't need to worry about combining those or anything on your end.
Okay. And so if we had some that had to get in, we'd put them in the had to get in section.
Yep.
Holding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you pull together 15 briefs today and 6 of them are, actually, really newsy things that have to get in, and the other 9 are, different press releases that you kind of rewrote so they can run sort of whenever they're not timely, then, you put briefs and 6 of them under your must run, and then briefs, and then the other 9 under the optional or content that can be held.
And then lastly, standalone photos. Just send you the Q link for that. Do you want a suggested print head for that, or?
Again, if you have an idea for a suggested print head, something great comes to you, we won't, as always, we're not going to kick you in the face for offering help, but it's not required. So you can just, put standalone photo and put the Q link in there for us, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
All right, Katie.
All right. Archie asked one of my questions, which was about briefs.
Okay.
So thanks for that. And my other is about things that exist pretty much entirely outside of the ability to link to it within Q. For example, the WDAY teas, which half the time gets put in our room, half the time gets emailed to me directly. Mm-hmm. Depends on the day. The poll, which we have to pull the results off of the front page because Q has no other way to get your results other than viewing the poll, mm-hmm. Which we have to do manually. And then our little COVID numbers box. And again, I do know, Ben knows how to do all these things. Ben is not going to be the person who does our paper every day. So I'd like to plan as if the person has not done the forum before. So what's a good protocol to have? And the WDAYTs thing, I could easily ask them to change their workflow on it. I don't think it would be a big deal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those other two, you kind of just have to pull in numbers from elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is probably going to be for you to just continue to grab that at whatever point, you get the information, or you decide yep, we're good on the poll, and just throw that on the list. So at the top of the list, it'll just be A2 WDAYTs, we learn about a local person who's doing a thing. And then
Okay.
we'll get that set up for the designer.
Okay. So we should still do those things. Got it.
Yeah, so basically what you do now where you copy and paste it over onto like A2 for the print lineup, just do that
Just do it on whatever
on
document.
your own document. We'll take that and throw it on there.
Perfect. And then do you want me to update our daily graphic as well then? And we only have that Monday through Friday right now.
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
And then I can just take it from there.
Good to know. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
All right. Anything else that y'all want us to go over right now? Like I said, I know that there's going to be more stuff we have to figure out kind of as we go along, and there'll be hiccups and things that we figure out as we go along. But
Alicia,
wanna answer-
I'm still not entirely clear on the deadline issue. Will they be similar to what they are today?
yes, they'll be similar, just
Okay.
simplified. So instead of having, I think you have
Right.
5 or 6 news deadlines right now.
There's a
paper
few,
dates, so it'll be, this is when your inside content needs to be in, and this is when A1 content needs to be
And
in.
will we only know that when, like, the day we make the shift, or will we know that in advance?
We're aiming to get that to you by Thursday. We have to look through all the other pubs in the group so that we can kind of stagger things, because it would be sort of silly for us to ask for all of that from everyone at the exact same time, because we're not getting to it at the exact same time. So we're going to look at everybody's deadlines and what time we have and get you that information before the end of the week.
And
But it will be
again,
later this week because Ben doesn't actually work today. He just came in extra out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah.
He's not back until Wednesday, so I'm not going to bug him on the rest of his weekend.
sure. And we appreciate that. The other thing, just to be entirely clear, this baton handoff is obviously a big day, right? So this would be next Monday for Tuesday. Is that the first time we work in this way?
Yes.
And so Ben won't be working that day either, but somebody will.
Correct. For the first couple of weeks, yep, Matt and Rob will be working really closely with Ben, and they'll be handling things just so that we've got our experts on as we work through some of those hiccups right away. Any questions we have, we've got the whole team is the A team, but the A+ team.
Sure. Okay,
Looking
so
at things.
Monday for Tuesday is the first. I mean, Tuesday's edition, essentially e-edition, is the first time that we produce a paper in this way.
Yep.
So I see Angie's got her hand raised, but I know one question is, with some of this advanced copy, when does that hand off? Is that also Monday, beginning Monday, for, like, say, Wednesday? Would that be the first? There's different deadlines for different kinds of
Right.
areas.
Yep.
So
And Angie, if it works for you, my thought was that we would still have you on Monday fill out that advanced content for Wednesday's print, and then we'll take it starting with Thursday's edition for business opinion. Is that reasonable for you?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, I would do Tuesday's paper this week like I had, and
Mhm.
then starting Monday, I really would still do it the same for Wednesday, but you'll do my first page Thursday. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I'm covering for Ryan this week too, so I can do the same for him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can get, his Wednesday print stuff all linked up on Monday morning. And then I think he and I are going to meet probably Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning when he's back, so that I can make sure he's clear on everything. So he takes over from there. But since you're working ahead on that stuff, that'd be great.
Okay, sounds good.
This reminds me so much of when we transitioned to the hub. And I don't know if you guys at the forum really had as much of a transition as, like, say I was in Detroit Lakes at the time, and all of a sudden we went from, like, designing our entire paper ourselves to handing it off to someone, and we're all like, freaking out a little bit, because it was like handing your baby off to the daycare person, and they seem nice, but you don't know if they're going to take care of that baby the same as you would, And so it took a while for us to, really be able to let go. But once we did, we're like, oh my gosh, have the kid. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be, similar to that in that, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be things that we figure out as we go along. And, just making sure that we're communicating with each other is really going to be key. The big change is that we went through that whole hub thing and setting up a department. And then I went through another similar transition where I led the layout center's transition to setting up ads and everything for all of the properties. So this is my third time setting up a centralized division for our company. And as you all know, I have screwed up a ton, but I have learned a ton from every one of those screw ups. So, this is going to go much smoother. There's a lot that we learned, a lot that we have in place already from what we learned before. But yeah, this is definitely going to be one where, really, my goal is that by Christmas, you guys are going to be like, this is so awesome. Why didn't we have a pod 2 years ago? Like, this is the best.
By Christmas, huh? All right.
That'll be our Christmas gift to all of you.
Yes.
Like I said, we'll get through the hiccups. Just be communicating with us, and we'll communicate with you any issues that we have as we work through that piece. But for the first week, things went relatively smoothly, and we already heard from editors like, this is super nice. Luke and Mitchell, I think I'm on his Christmas card list now. He's loves it so much. So we hope that this achieves everything that it sets out to do and really allows you all to focus on everything that you've been asked to do on the digital side. And maybe, I don't know, sleep at night sometimes. I hear some of you have families that are really nice. You could go meet them. Whatever.
All right, Alicia. Well, thank you for setting this up. I'm sure there might still be some lingering questions, but Lisa has given us a good broad brush. I think the more, Alicia, that I know that this is hard, but the more that like things can be on paper, the better. Just so like people can reference them, like kind of a guidebook or something would be helpful. But we've got our notes right now, so
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And, like you said, just whatever you all can do to feel like you can let go. If necessary, I can arrange a chorus of 8-year-olds to just stand outside your house and sing the song from Frozen. I have that at my disposal. I'm very powerful. Top volume until your neighbors complain, whatever. So
thanks, Alicia.
Yep. Thank you all for your time. Let us know if you have any questions or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.